Even as the NHL season rolls along, it's been far from seamless. There have been challenges and scandals damaging the brand as we go. Attendance is dipping across the board for varying reasons. Pittsburgh's at a sellout streak end. Nashville's at a sellout streak end. Chicago's at a sellout streak end. Not to mention Canada's response to the Omicron variant has forced their native teams to play without fans for weeks. We should also consider general COVID fears, rising ticket prices, and fan apathy in the case of the Sabres. There's a chance most of this will be temporary if the coronavirus becomes endemic, but it hasn't made things easier for the teams in the Western Conference. Let's just say there's a lot more to go over here. The key for any team trying to develop a new core is the whole development part of it. For Anaheim's sake, it seems like something has finally broken through. They're getting desperately needed player development. Youth is starting to emerge. Troy Terry is an American hero, and apparently a goal-scoring dynamo who shits on goaltenders like no one's business. Maxime Comtois is at a year that exiles people to Europe, but Sonny Milano's starting to put it together. Jamie Drysdale is taking strides on the back end. And even more. Have you heard about the great gospel of Trevor Zegras? You need to hear about Trevor Zegras. You wonder why Anaheim's power play has gone from record-setting lows to one of the strongest in hockey? Not a team effort. Trevor Zegras. Old-school hockey heads hate him. Women want him. Fans want to be him. Trevor Zegras. Forever eternal. The same does not apply to longtime piece of shit / GM Bob Murray. After relentless pressure on him and the boys club standard of Anaheim, he has resigned. I only hope that he can get help for his alcohol addiction. Shit can derail lives. Trust me, I've seen it happen. Get the tanks out of the shed, we're going long hauling to Draft Pick City, motherfuckers! Everyone on board for one of the most blatant suckages the world has ever seen. You think you've seen embarrassment, then you don't know the Coyotes! So bad they're even tanking their final days in Glendale. They were nearly booted out of their arena due to neglecting to pay their rent due to clerical errors. For 18 months, they managed to pay it at the 11th hour. Damn it, I wanted mass chaos. We may still get our wish, however. There is no guarantee that the Tempe proposal is going to be approved. And the Yotes saw the disaster that was the Chargers at StubHub Center and wanted that for themselves. They want their future home to be Arizona State's 5,000-seat arena, if the NHL even approves it. They still think the Coyotes are viable in Phoenix. This brand is far too toxic to salvage. We'll see you next month when Gary Bettman keeps pretending this oversunken cost is still worth recovering. Pressure's rising, Calgary. Everybody expected you to compete for a playoff berth. Do you want us to applaud you for continued support of a core that has only brought about the same damn thing for years on end? I will be impressed at Andrew Mangiapane's development, I'll give them that. However, their hot start seems to have tapered off by losing 9 of 12. The West isn't anyone's to claim, but it is chaotic. Any more skidding on their front will surely lead to their demise. Not to mention they have more than a few key free agents hitting the open market this offseason. You don't want Johnny Hockey to leave empty-handed on a career year, do you? Now, the perpetual mediocrity is one thing, but the real alarms are ringing off of it. Do you remember how the Flames secured funding for a new arena in Calgary and celebrated? We're gonna have to circle back. Team ownership pulled out of the deal. Turns out getting the hard part done was one thing, but adding $10 million to it for surplus charges, that's bad faith. What truly upstanding owners. Let the relocation rumors begin! Again.
I think the report speaks for itself. The people that were involved are no longer here. We're not looking back in 2010. We're looking forward. And we're not going to talk about what happened. That is my answer. That's none of your business. What we're going to do today is our business. You don't work for the company. If someone in the company asks that question, we'll answer it. We're not going to talk about Kyle Beach. We're not going to talk about anything that happened. Now, we're moving on. What more do I have to say? You want to keep asking the same question? You hear the same answer? Okay, ask the next question.
It felt odd. Despite their sluggish start and losing Nathan MacKinnon for more than a significant period of time, I didn't consider panicking. Something told me that the Avs would eventually pull through it. That part happened when MacKinnon got back into the lineup and started wrecking bitches like his usual self. Before he got injured again. Not that that matters. Colorado was scoring at will, cutting through opposing defenses like a knife through butter. Know how ridiculous it's been? Nazem Kadri is playing out of his goddamn mind. It'll be perfect for his inevitable 8-game playoff suspension. Cale Makar has transcended to godhood itself. It'd be fine, however, there's a serious problem they need to address. Goaltending. It's been a hot mess for the most part. To be fair, Kemper is sometimes worthy of what they gave up for him, and they finally managed to get Francouz back from injury, but he'll have to be at peak form. This is a do-or-die year for the franchise. they fail to make it past the second round again, let's just say the memes are loaded and ready to fire. When everything goes to shit, you can at least say the Dallas Stars at least had that fluke cup run in the bubble to hold their hat on. Every time I look at this team, I just feel one emotion. Blech. It's just so... blech. An old and slow team that has mostly been old and slow. Most of the time, they just look discombobulated. The magic of Rick Bowness's coaching is fading away. They have some flashes of young brilliance, but it's not enough to overcome the sheer geriatric nature of the franchise. It's a one-line group that screams one and done in the playoffs. And rumors about being sellers at the deadline are spreading like wildfire. John Klingberg would be an awful nice trade chip for a team that needs some more offensive firepower on the blue line. On both ends of the ice. Despite the questions, goaltending may have been solved by mere circumstance. Mr. Glass dealt with his 13th major injury, forcing the poor repairman to throw his hands up in the air. And Hudobin's only trick is having his form disappear in front of his eyes. They finally trusted the youth in Jake Ottinger with a side of Holtbeast. Never thought I'd see the day. The question Dallas has to answer, what do they want to be? There was a reason why I clowned on the Oilers in their offseason so hard in previous videos. It's because of shit like the season they considered to be a pivotal one. A team with the talent they flash like a park streaker every night shouldn't be going through a 2-11-2 stretch. You didn't even have to follow them that well to figure out what the problems are. It's a broken fucking record. A lack of any sort of forward depth, suspect bottom defensive pairings, and goaltending less consistent than Mike Smith's career arc. Yes, Coach Tippett, it's all Mikko Koskinen's fault. Nothing else. It certainly can't be due to offseason moves and decisions consistently blowing up in the team's face. Panic has set in for Edmonton. Another wasted year of Leon and Connor is on their doorstep. But you know what they say? When there's a fire, throw more grease onto it. Evander Kane? You thought that Evander Kane-ser was the answer to their awful stretch? He should try violating COVID protocols in Canada. If he pulls that shit again, dude's gonna spend a few years in prison. That's how that country works. What are you saying now, they fired Dave Tippett too? I bet he blames Koskinen for his stagnant tactics as well. Like Detroit, their development curve is heading in the right direction. It feels like things are starting to really gel together despite a shitload of injuries hitting key pieces of theirs early on. The Kings are on the fringes of a playoff berth. Considering how fucked this franchise looked a few years ago, it's a testament to their scouting and development teams. Not to mention the vets are still pulling their weight. Many argue that all Drew Doughty needed was some motivation to return to his elite glory. Lo and behold, look at what's happened with Doughty. He's finally playing like elite Doughty again. Be nice if he were a bit more consistent with it in the past, but what's done is done. Hell, even Jonathan Quick has revived a past form. This year probably isn't the one to make serious noise in the postseason, but I'd be a fool if I said this isn't looking like a successful campaign. Not to mention getting Byfield back recently. They're in an interesting situation. Now, only if they could manage to get Brendan Lemieux to stop imitating a vampire. You'd think he'd have been defanged or something. Why do I get the feeling that this is a critical year for the Wild? They're a really good team, so I shouldn't think like this, but there are too many variables for me to consider them a sustainable entity. On one hand, they do have Kirill Kaprizov, and he's a fucking beast. Dude is out here making Matt Zuccarello and Ryan Hartman have career seasons by osmosis, for God's sake. The defense is shaken up as it was is holding its own on the back end. Goaltending, Cam Talbot included, has been very strong. The on-ice product is fine, but there are big questions coming up in the offseason. Those Suter and Parise buyouts are going to jump by $8 million combined, leaving them with a paltry amount to sign guys like Kakkonen and Fiala. It's a team that might be tied up by past mistakes. And it's a shame, too, since Kaprizov is the kind of talent that deserves a shot at the cup. Maybe I'm being too cynical for their run of good form. And they do have some more quality prospects on the way, but it just reminds me of their old motto. Close, but never close enough. Turns out all the Preds needed was a refresh. Quite the difference in comparison to where they were a year ago. Old pieces of the core out, fresh youth playing a vital role. Not to mention Yusei Saros becoming, you know, the old-ass meme. He's playing quite possibly the best hockey that Nashville has seen in net since that guy. Enough about the past. Besides Yusei, the bigger revelation for them this year has been in Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene. Two of the worst contracts in hockey. That's cute. Both are experiencing an offensive renaissance in ways the Predators desperately needed. I don't know, but I have a feeling they could low-key make noise in the postseason if they keep this up. They have the balance to do it. The West is wide open this season. And if Colorado just happens to slip up in the Central, you know somebody needs to pounce. Do Preds fans really want it to be Minnesota or St. Louis? Just like any shot on Saros, they will be denied. I smell sleeper squad in our midst. It doesn't have that magical might that the team a few years ago had, but there's plenty to be interested about here. Vladimir Tarasenko has answered every doubter with a revival, burning all of them to dust. Pavel Buchnevich has meshed with the squad perfectly, thanks Rangers. Jordan Kyrou. It's a franchise that has good balance on all four lines, a blistering power play, and a strong two-way defensive unit. You just know Colton Parayko's going to snap out of his cold funk someday, but it might not be enough. The Western Conference is a mosh pit, and there are plenty of teams in the same tier as them. What they need is the blessing of a higher power. Descending from the heavens to aid the Blues, Ville Husso. The goaltending keystone St. Louis has been sorely lacking since Jordan Binnington. This man is playing with an incredible fire not seen in almost 3 years. What an incredible sight. The Blues have a shot to be something. Can they make another run? I feel like the city of St. Louis will need it after witnessing their old Rams make it back to the dance. At least they aren't complete garbage. That can be considered as a positive, right? The Sharks need all the good fortune they can get. Considering how Evander Kane evolved into malignant cancer and got cut for violating COVID protocol, it's a Christmas miracle that his contract was voided and won't count against the cap. Now Doug Wilson can freely piss it away on overpaying another middle six winger in free agency. But enough about the inevitable. The team has made some good strides. Their goaltending has been much stronger than last season. Timo Meier is emerging into a legit superstar, tapping into his immense talent on regularity. Logan Couture is revived after a sluggish year to be the leader that San Jose needs. And what about Erik Karlsson? Now this is a lot closer to the guy they signed for $11.5 million per year. Unfortunately, this offer was apparently for a limited time. He's out long-term with another injury. Sorry, Sharks, you needed EK to have any chance of going anywhere. You're done. Fold it. You don't have the defensive depth or firepower to compensate for his loss. Look on the bright side. You'll get a hell of a return for Tomas Hertl if you sell at the deadline. We all got baited. We thought this team was going to make incredible noise due to the unprecedented success that Vegas had in their inaugural season. We dreamed of the incredible team structure and goaltending carrying them to a playoff berth. The problem was they started playing games. Then we all realized, oh yeah, they're an expansion team. Despite everything they built up, what do you think have been the main problems of the Kraken? Why yes, of course, team structure and goaltending. They don't have the offense to keep up with teams on the score sheet. The defense is left in bunches due to shitty scheming and poor back-checking. And the goaltending? Philip Grubauer? Are you okay? You've been having a season most players tend to drink away. Not to mention several injuries to keep players ailing them, and you get the Kraken. Back to reality we go. This team really hired Dave Haxtell to be their head coach. That's the joke that keeps on giving. You mean to tell me that Jim Benning trying to be aggressive in the offseason with several knee-jerk high-risk maneuvers didn't pay off? Color me shocked. To the surprise of no one except Canucks brass, Vancouver was hot garbage to start the season. Everything was in disarray. No, Jim, it wasn't COVID that held Vancouver back. It was the piss-poor construction of the team. How else do you explain their penalty kill that's only killed themselves? They have the pieces to do something, but they keep getting kneecapped at the door by foolish transactions. And it finally forced them to make a move. Jim Benning and Travis Green have been fired. Benning lasted way too long and did far too much damage to the team. It may take a lost season to finally right this underachieving ship, but then you see it. The replacements for the long overdue firings. Jim Rutherford as team czar. Hans Moleman. He's perfect until you go on that deep playoff run. That'll ruin everything. The new GM is an old buddy of JR's in Pittsburgh, but their head coach? Oh my god. Barbecue Bruce! The Smokehouse Savant is back in the NHL and cooking up incredible form for the Canucks. Let's fucking go! It might not be this year, but make the cut, please. The memes would be delicious. Do or die time, Vegas. The worst part is that this season has been a massive struggle by their standards. Injuries, inconsistency, underachieving parts, and a shuffling deck of depth pieces have been the standard lot. In a way, it's impressive that they've still been able to keep at the top of the Pacific with all of this happening, but to be fair, it is a relatively weaker division. The Knights are far from their peak. However, team expectations couldn't be any higher than they are. You know why this is? Yet another all-in splash move. They did it. They nabbed Jack Eichel from Buffalo. More futures and a quality piece in Alex Tuch moving out for a massive risk in his own right. They rightfully allowed him the surgery he desired, but no hockey player has ever had it before. But to me, that's not the issue. It's in cohesion. What happens if they need to overhaul the roster again to cater to his strengths? How long can they keep plunging into the futures pool? They're on the hot seat. They must win the cup. And soon. Otherwise, despite their great run of success, they'll go down as failures. You'll always be considered such unless you secure the main prize. So now we see what the Jets are like when Connor Hellebuck isn't going balls out to carry the 5,000-pound boulder that is this franchise. Sheer mediocrity. Blandness. A team without a true identity or vision for the future. As a counter-argument, they nearly temporarily relocated to Saskatoon and had significant injuries throughout the roster, paging Blake Wheeler on that one. Even before this massive skid, I don't see the Jets as anything to be truly afraid of unless they make significant changes. There are too many underperforming parts. First-round exit is their upside. Although that's comforting in comparison to the off-ice turmoil. Everyone was wondering what was going to happen to Kevin Shoveldayoff, since he had a deep connection to the most heinous scandal the NHL has experienced in decades. He managed to Matrix slow-mo dodge the bullets, but they ended up hitting Paul Maurice. He resigned due to feeling the team needed a shakeup. It's noble, but he's not wrong. I just don't know if Dave Lowry is the answer there. His son's on the team and his time on ice is up despite the worst season of his career? Isn't that a conflict of interest? The West is one gigantic dog pile. You could make the argument for a good chunk of teams that could come out on top of it. Colorado's managed to shake out of their funk and look like the favorites, but they still have a few flaws that could be exposed. Every game from here on out is critical. It doesn't matter if it's a rivalry or not. Teams can't afford to leave points on the table. If they end up missing out on the playoffs, those will be the games they regret. Best of luck to all of you.
It's a bold strategy, Simmer. Let's see if it works out.
Let's get some mascots out here with some dodgeballs. What do you say?
So apparently there's going to be... Oh, here we go. The mascot's coming out to try and distract. Look out. Wow. Are you kidding me?